Otakuology podcast with Otaku Mike and Jingraves.
Hey everyone, Jin back with another episode of the Otakuology podcast, where we like to record a lot of nerdy things for you guys. Now the bad thing is today Mike's not here with me, but I got one of my brothers that that I've grown up with forever, and we are going to be talking about basically the new big three, and kind of overall shonen layout of stuff. So, just you want to say hi to the people?
Hello, everybody. Good afternoon.
Yeah, tags you want to throw out there?
You can reach me on YouTube at Naruto 132 or Goku 1337.
You got anything else anywhere? Instagram, Twitter, YouTube? Well, you already said YouTube.
Right now, I'm not too big out there, but I'm just in
YouTube.
Yeah, just YouTube right now. So, kind of laying low, but it's good to be on Otakuology for the first time. You know, with Jingraves, my buddy. I've listened to a few of the podcasts, but I have never been on, so this is my first time.
Right,
so we'll see how things go.
This is like one of your first times, like podcasting in general, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Just so people know that, he is a professional, okay? So, just hopping into it and everything like we talked about, we wanted to talk about basically not jumping into any other stuff, because Justin hasn't really been like too up to date on anime, except for more of the Shonen Jump type stuff, or just random ones that are floating around there that pique our interest and whatnot. But both of us come from a big background of being super big Naruto nerds.
Dragon Ball Z nerds.
Dragon Ball Z. A little bit of Bleach. A little bit of One Piece, depending on who you talk to that was in our friend group. So that was why we kind of picked the subject of kind of talking about the big three current, old, maybe a legendary one if we can think of some, that may have been the groundwork. I know everybody's seen the comic that was out there, the little comic strip that made a joke about it where Goku is the grandpappy, and then Bleach, One Piece, and Naruto kind of came around after that and were handed down from that, which there are some roots to that because they did kind of draw art underneath him as assistants for a little while. Some of them did.
So a lot of representation of passing down the torch, so to speak.
Right. So let's jump into it. So Dragon Ball Z, that whole area, was probably what a lot of us started out with, which is also like, when I first met Justin, one of the things that people would call him was Goku-san. Goku-san. And it was always really funny hearing that, because I was like, is that like a reference to Dragon Ball Z or something? And it was, yeah. Do you know Dragon Ball Z? We're going to get along real good, okay? And I just never knew that. But we were kind of doing a little bit of research before starting the podcast and everything. And of course, Dragon Ball Z is one of those legendary ones of the big three that rained down. And what we talked about is, are there some other ones that get put into that category as well that influenced what we know today? I think another one that we've kind of talked about and would agree on is Yu Yu Hakusho. Because Yu Yu Hakusho, like the big three guys from what we're covering, is big three always is something that comes from Shonen Jump. So it has to be from one of their lines. That's what, it's most likely been in Shonen Jump magazine or something like that, once upon a time, things like that. So Yusuke Urameshi, my boy, a lot of y'all know that that's where Jin comes from, for my name, my gamer tag, everything else. But that's where he actually came from. is Yu Hakusho. So that's the second one that we both agreed upon. Now, the third one, I don't know if we agree on it. We had some choice representation of what it could be, but you guys will have to let us know about that. One of them that we kind of brought up and thought about was Rurouni Kenshin, because it is another one that I feel like a lot of us have grown up with. Our little brother Trey used to be super big fan of Rurouni Kenshin. I love Rurouni Kenshin.
Yeah.
Now I know there's a little speculation around the mangaka about stuff and what he did, but we're not going to talk about that on this podcast, so we'll throw that away for now. But Rurouni Kenshin, I think, is probably the other big one. Now, the only other one that I think would be close, but is actually considered shoujo, would maybe be, well, it's considered shonen to an extent, but it's in that gray area, would be Inuyasha. But I really don't think that it fits into the big three category with the popularity and everything that came out of it. Now, and from legendary, or being back then until now, the big three mostly capped about 20 volumes. That's usually what it was. Plenty of things, toys, whatever, were brought out about them. Now, our big three that everybody knows and loves today, One Piece, Naruto, and Bleach, has roots out of those three, kind of, sort of. Those people influenced them. So, that's kind of where we came. We had another thing with me and Justin that had our roots come up, was mostly with Naruto. Basically whenever you join the friend group or whatever, you had to go through the initiation of basically everybody asking you one question, of an anime question. Most of the time it was probably based off of Naruto. Some of them were different, and you had to know like who the person watched what and things like that. And at least most of us knew something about that. So it wasn't like a hazing process, but it kind of felt that way, because you were sitting there like, oh my God, I want to get into this really cool group, but I don't know. I don't know if I can answer all that. But for the most part, like, if you watched it on an average okay basis, you knew most of the questions that were going to be asked. But so whenever that happened, though, then you would have Justin and a couple other people would get together or whatever, and it had to have at least 3 members there, where we actually talked and would decide who the person's name was based off of Naruto, which got a little crazy, a little funny at times, and was pretty funny. So that's why your boy, everybody knows who his favorite character is, which is Kakashi.
Yeah. And it can get a little messy because everybody tend to like the same characters. You got Naruto, you got Sasuke. They kind of want those bad. I don't know how characters.
I don't know how many people were like, I'm gonna fight you for the Naruto. I was like,
I want to be Itachi.
I was like, I'm happy with that. And then it was really weird how it kind of rained down a little bit, where there were a lot of people that started getting 2 names.
Right.
Because I think I don't know how many people when we were in college started calling me King of Sharingan, and I was like, do you know who the King of Sharingan is? That's Sasuke. You can't sit there and put it on Kakashi. They're like, I guess you're Sasuke too then. I'm like, you can't tell me that. There's a bunch of other people. But it was funny because nobody else actually took the Sasuke moniker, really. It was all, what is it? The Genin 9. It was that whole group, most of those people were taken, and things like that, or their masters. So it was really funny when it came down to that.
Yeah. And then it was ironic how I've been Goku and Naruto.
Right. You actually got to spread out from different things.
Yeah.
But we've all kind of kept our monikers of things that we've played before, and that we continuously play.
So Jen, you know what characters that all have the same personality nowadays?
Yeah.
Is Goku,
Yeah.
Naruto,
Yeah.
and Midoriya.
Yeah.
They all have that same personality, that spark, that strive, the inspiration to want to do better.
I mean, I'd agree to that. I don't know if they're all kind of in the same personality category, because I feel like Midoriya is kind of like, if you bend me too far, I'll break, even though I'm supposed to be super strong. But of course, then you have Goku that's like, hey man, you got a buffet, I'll beat it. That was Goku's mentality. You got a buffet, I'll beat it. And then he walks out and he's like, we're going to the next buffet, okay, boys, round them up. But, and it is kind of funny how a bunch of the monikers that we've kept, though, off of that stuff, like your gamer tag still has Uzumaki in it, so Naruto. Trey's, which people kind of know Trey from the podcast here and there, they know that Trey's is Sagido or whatever, which is Vegeta, that mine is Jin, which is Jin from Yu Yu Hakusho, and of course the Grays part is something else, but a lot of people, I think, play off of that stuff. If you don't have otaku in your name or manga or something like that, most of the time you have something that is one of the big three titles that we do have and that a lot of people listen to. So I really think that there is a lot of that. But do you think, like, with the big three, that they're really deserving of that? Do you think the big three should be the big three? I mean, of course, I think both of us can agree on Naruto. But do you really think that Bleach and One Piece should still hold that from other ones that we saw? Or you think that they were just overrated at the time to have those titles?
One Piece definitely deserved to be a part of the big three. Why? Because it's still going. Out of all...
Well, I mean, like then. Of course, now okay, we could argue it that, but then whenever it was like kind of coming up the rear, because, for the longest time, like, out of all the manga you saw pumped out, it was Naruto, Bleach, Naruto, Bleach, Naruto, Bleach. Oh, there's One Piece. Oh, okay. Now it's kind of getting its steam going, and it's, the past few years, One Piece has been going strong because I feel like it's like the joke that we've kind of brought up of Naruto handling the mantle over to One Piece and saying, you're still the one that's here, you got to carry me in Bleach going forward from here. And going from there, really, but do you think at the time, back then, that it was deserving of that moniker as well, or not?
I didn't really get into One Piece too much.
Yeah.
I only saw probably the first season, really.
Right.
But out of the first season, it really grabbed me. And I wanted to keep watching it, but I just had so many other animes that I was trying to watch at the same time, and then I just got kind of discouraged about how many episodes there were in One Piece, so that's why I kind of fell off of it.
Well, and I think a lot of people kind of did that because, even in the manga community now, I feel like there are a lot of people that say, hey, I'm just now starting to watch One Piece, and you can tell, Bleach and Naruto had some kind of thing, had their tentacles and everything else put out into the world, while Bleach, One Piece kind of had this slow, it was coming out and almost like an octopus, slowly wrapping its tentacles around people to have people aware of it. And after some of the other stuff started falling off, then we had this. I mean, because there were plenty of things that seemed like they even surpassed One Piece in some aspects, like Fairy Tail, like Fire Force, because it came out a little bit before Naruto and everything started ending and all that. Some of the other ones, Seven Deadly Sins, all kind of had this particular feel to it that said, hey, you could be a big three, but you're not printed by Shōnen Jump, so you can't be a big three.
Right.
But they had that feeling, that we all enjoyed from what we got out of what the big three presented.
But to double back on your question, though, I do believe that One Piece deserved to be in that big three because it's been around. It's like one of the original animes.
Right.
That's how I feel.
Right.
Like Dragon Ball, and then there was One Piece. They both came out kind of close to the 80s, around the early 80s.
Yeah.
And that's all I can remember.
In the 90s.
Other than Sailor Moon.
Oh my god. Sailor Moon was great. And then we had obviously like Pokemon and Digimon and some of the other ones, but those were creature catchers,
Creature catchers. Classics.
Now here's one. What do you think about Bleach? Because I would say at the time Bleach had it. I would say when I finished Bleach that I would argue Bleach should have never been in the big three just because of that final arc chapter set, but there are probably people out there that want to argue with me on that, but they know it's true.
Now, Bleach is really touchy subject for me.
Oh, no.
It's a really touchy subject for me. I was really, really into Bleach hardcore when it first started. The first couple of seasons, all the way up to the Grimmajaw battle, all the way up to Udokiora and the battle in Hueco Mundo.
Yeah.
And everything was great. And then they had the Bond arc.
I love that arc.
That's when everything took a left turn.
I love that arc.
Right after that, they started the Aizen.
Yeah. Well, that's the bad thing. So, the Bount, and then they had those weird ass, like, crab things that would attach to your sword in your hand and, like, you couldn't let it go.
Right.
Those were both, like, filler arcs. Which I had to say that out of all that stuff is Bleach had, like, the Bount one I really enjoyed. But you could tell that it wasn't going to be part of the main series. Just somehow how it was presented, things like that. But that was the thing I feel like with Naruto and One Piece. Like, their fillers, you were like, yeah, this is supposed to be in here, man. Like, and then you found out it wasn't. You were like, what?
Right.
You can't tell me that. That's bullshit.
See, the Bleach fillers, to me, it felt like they should have been movies and not a part of the anime.
Right.
I feel like they should have just made a movie instead of making that a filler.
Right.
It would have made way more sense. As far as that, I think Kubo kind of went Kubo's the director, by the way.
Right.
He kind of went in a different direction with his writing, and it kind of made it seem like he, as a narrator of his show, was being a character in his show at the same time. Right. And that gets messed.
Through Ichigo?
Through Aizen.
Oh, okay.
Through Aizen. And that kind of gets a little messy.
That's true.
Because the writers, they kind of get writer's block, and then the people who are developing for you, they kind of mess up on their artwork, and that's how the anime just kind of fell apart, in my own opinion.
Right. No, I mean, I agree, because looking at it from the anime and manga aspects, like, there were a lot of things that were completely different. Now, I know that they are bringing back Bleach, kind of trying to finish out all the stuff. And he kind of tried to hold on by doing what Naruto did with Boruto, and make this Burn the Witch stuff with a different branch that's actually in America and stuff like that. But I don't really see the scars that Bleach kind of left out of it really coming back. I mean, Boruto, like, people hate it, but people still read it. That's the problem with that one is you can sit there and say, hey, this is not Naruto. Okay, we all know that.
We all know it.
It's kind of like Avatar with Aang and Avatar with, I can't remember her name.
But yet, even though we all know it, this is what we wanted. We wanted to see what life would be like after Naruto. We wanted to see his children.
This is true. This is true.
We did. It's not like we didn't ask for this. This is exactly what we asked for.
Right. And so, I mean, I feel like we can't really be scared about that. But, there is some spots in there that I feel like you said, we asked for it, and it probably wasn't what we wanted, per se. And we could have gotten some other better content. But the fact is that it was left up to also somebody else kind of going from there.
This is the same thing that happened with Dragon Ball Z in the 90s.
Right.
We wanted another series. They gave us GT. A lot of people didn't like GT.
This is true. And then Super came out. And people were like, oh yeah, Super! So, but I agree with that. I mean, that is a very good thing. I always like to compare Boruto and... Oh, what's the other Avatar's name? Aang and...
Korra.
I always want to go Kitara, and then I'm like, that's not her. Korra, I loved Aang the Last Airbender. I loved all of that set, the first 3 books. But when Korra came out, I think we had such a jump in technology, like in Boruto from Naruto, that really made it where a lot of us hated it. Because we wanted to live in that mysticism of hey, we have the jutsus, which are magical, and we have the bending and Avatar, where it was this mystical thing, and now when we incorporate cell phones and technology and all this other stuff, it was fine to have some of that, but then as it more and more of it came out, part of the stuff lost its mysticism and stuff from there, because now we have technology. Not everything can be explained by, ooh, it's magic. We lost part of that. Or chi.
It's a good thing you talked about Avatar. For being a Western anime, the only Western anime that stands up, it's pretty good. The original Avatar and The Legend of Korra.
Right.
I've seen all of it completely. I loved Legend of Korra. I thought it was great. It gave the prime example of what the Avatar would be like as a female. The Avatar as a male had peace. He was in control. He had control of stuff. But the Avatar as a female, she let her emotions get involved in the situation. And
I mean, but we had that other Avatar that was a girl too, though. The one with the fans, and they painted their faces. Oh, I don't remember names. About
Avatar, Kyoshi.
Yeah. So I mean, we had that stuff, but I really feel like with part of that, like with Korra, we did kind of come off of all of that stuff, and maybe it was the fact of having the video games and stuff like we do now compared to what we had then. It's that argument about kids going outside and playing versus staying inside and playing video games and stuff. There's always going to be some kind of argument like that. Maybe that's kind of a good thing too, because the mysticism is our minds and stuff of what we could go outside and play and make up. You could be a knight or a ninja or whatever and do stupid shit. Or living on the inside, playing those video games and whatnot, and kind of being like a Korra, or a Boruto, things like that. Now, I will say, I do have to give roots to Korra and the fact of it was one of the first big ones where we had a female-female relationship that wasn't hidden or altered by the media like Sailor Moon was, but it gives kissing cousins a whole new meaning in that. I'm just saying, because we've watched Sailor Moon since then sometimes, and it is pretty weird when it comes down to it of how part of that stuff actually is, because they thought that was wrong at the time and altered all that stuff. But I was really happy to actually see that with Korra, that was able to come out, and we were able to see kind of that relationship kind of grow from there. But
there was a nice transition from Avatar to The Legend of Korra.
Yeah,
I like that transition. It was about 100 years later.
Yeah.
The transition was smooth.
Uh-huh.
Most of the characters were still alive, and the only character that really wasn't alive was probably Aang.
He was alive in our hearts, though.
Yeah. But I like that it had like a smooth transition. It kind of reminds me of the transition with Dragon Ball to Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah.
It was a very smooth transition.
Right.
You know, I like animes like that have that smooth transition when it crosses over. A lot of people was a little lost when Naruto's transition from Naruto Shippuden. A lot of people just didn't understand what Akatsuki was.
With the Akatsuki?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true. Well, and then the other weird thing about that is even anime styles, it changed in that, which I think is what a lot of people didn't like about it, compared to what we got with the Sound 5 at the end of that.
But the anime styles is probably the best change it had.
I don't know.
I would believe. I mean, in some fights in the Naruto Shippuden series are different from other fights in the Shippuden series, as well as in the original Naruto series.
Right.
So, some of the fights in the Naruto series look like the newer fights in the Naruto Shippuden series.
So, if we could split up like Naruto Shippuden, and things like that, do you feel like you feel like Naruto would have been in the big three? Do you feel like Naruto Shippuden would have been in the big three by itself?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Now here's another question. Why do you think that Boruto wouldn't hold the mantle for like the newer big three compared to the three that we were presented with that you and I looked at?
I would probably say it is the emotional attachment in the characters.
When it was lost between the transition.
I think it was lost
from
between
Naruto
the
to Boruto.
from Naruto Shippuden to Boruto.
Yeah,
because we don't know what kind of happened between that time point.
Right.
A lot is not said about Sasuke's whereabouts when you start out in Boruto. So you're just kind of like, okay, like, what's going on? Where's Sasuke?
Yeah. Which, I mean, they do have a manga for that, which is, I think it's Naruto and the Seven Springs.
Mm-hmm.
And you find out that Sasuke is actually an envoy for Naruto to send out into the world to accomplish these bigger missions. I mean, it almost seems like Fairy Tail. Have you seen a lot of that?
Yes.
Gildart's the guy that can like control gravity.
Mm-hmm.
So he goes out on the big ass missions that not a lot of people can handle, and he can do it by himself. And so he's way more powerful than even like Laxus, the lightning dragon guy at the time, because he's got to have the Evergreen clan with him. So that's kind of who Sasuke becomes, is like Gildarts. He gets sent out into the world to go accomplish things, and then he comes back and it's like, here Naruto, or Shikamaru, I finished this task, he gets to see the family for a couple days, and then he goes, all right, give me another task, I'm bored, let me go here and do my stuff. So, that's kind of where that is, and we get a little bit of them trying to do like part of the exam. We do get some of the characters, kind of a first look, so it is a good transition manga for that. But I do kind of agree in a way that there are still a lot of things left out, because we're not going from seeing Naruto as he's older into Naruto as he marries Hinata, as they get pregnant for the first time, as he's going through all of that, as a father, trying to figure all that stuff, having Boruto actually getting pregnant with their second child. Just, we don't really get that, you don't
really get that sense of build up.
Right.
But
we have just a lot of stuff that we're not getting from it.
But what I did notice is that they try to demonstrate similarities between their children and connect them to their adult, to their parents.
Right.
So you could kind of tell, okay, this is their kid, this is their child, because they had this special ability. They was represented as the Inoshikocho or something
Right,
like that.
yeah.
You know, so they had those
classic Inoshikocho.
Yes, they have those classic things that you can see or kind of connect that to a character that you are already familiar with.
Right.
And you would be like, "Oh, well that's their kid." You know.
Yeah.
So Boruto, as it stands alone, it kind of did a bad job at
presenting what Naruto did.
Yes.
So do you think that may be fixed a little bit if we actually would jump backwards and do more of a prequel to Naruto and maybe call it what was Naruto's dad's name? The Yellow Flash, but
Minato.
Yeah. And have like another series called like Minato, Naruto's past or whatever, and instead of the background stuff that we had, actually go off of the parents of who we got growing up.
Well, really, we would need a prequel to Boruto.
Oh, in between that?
Yeah, not a prequel to Naruto.
Well, I meant like the grandparents. So, the original Inoshikocho, which would be Shikamaru's dad, Ino's dad, things like that. Do you think that would probably do better than Boruto has, having
most definitely.
Minato,
that would be
set?
That would be amazing, because a lot of people like the what was that series, the Kakashi Gaiden arc?
Yeah.
A lot of people like that.
Where we went back for Kakashi.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it makes sense because you learn a lot about the purpose of Naruto. You learn about the original Team 7 or what that was.
Right.
Minato as the leader, and then Ren, Obito, and Kakashi were all on that team.
Right.
And you learn about them. You learn about the evil that was behind Black Zetsu, and how he persuaded Obito to become evil, and all the things that happened and how it led up to Naruto's existence. The whole shinobi existence is based off of,
because we do get part of the backstory telling with like Kakashi and with Asuma and I can't remember the other girl. The Kurenai is that who it was? Kurenai?
Yeah.
And some of them, we got those backstories.
Right.
But we didn't really get anything past where Naruto's birth was, except for a little bit of what his parents had. Mm-hmm. But jumping back even further than that to when Minato was a little boy, the people he ran around with, and kind of going from there.
I think that would be amazing. That would probably be like the Dragon Ball of Naruto.
Right. Right. And you think that would be more successful than Boruto?
That would be more successful than Shippuden. No lie.
So here's one other thing. Do you think that if a Minato series came out as the prequel to Naruto, do you think it would strengthen Boruto more?
It would.
Okay.
It would.
By seeing the generations and how they evolved, all based off of the kind of the Uzumaki bloodline.
Mm-hmm.
Goodness. Well, anyway, guys, stay tuned. Come back for more. We have to take a quick break, and we will see all of y'all very shortly. No word from Mike, even though he's not here.
If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. It's free. There are creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started.
Hey guys, we are back again with the Otakuology podcast. Second part of our kind of like triple threat, big three talk. and how shonen manga / anime is a little different here and there. I guess we've kind of gotten into, like, I don't want to say conspiracy theories, but I feel like we have. You guys decide that part, okay? But back with me again, still in the show, is my brother Justin.
Yeah, it's Justin, Naruto 132, or Goku 1337 on YouTube. We're back again, Otakuology.
Right. Well, you're still here,
Yeah.
you know. We're just back after the break.
Yeah.
So what do you think, like, as your this is like your first time, right? That's
Right.
what we kind of said at the beginning. What do you think of your first time pod and recording?
It's a new experience. It's different from YouTube, I'll say.
Yeah. Because you're not in front of a camera.
Right.
Yeah. That's just picking up our sound.
Right.
But
There's no cutting, copy, pasting, no
Right.
editing.
Right.
So it's all just raw material straight to the
Right.
You know.
Right. I mean, the only thing that you really have to know and make sure you do is, and it's good to have partners when you do it, or at least somebody else to play off of, is you really don't want dead air. So that's why I think a lot of times if I'm recording by myself, a lot of those recordings you're going to go, something like that, because I'm the only one that's doing it. And I'm trying to catch up and play that other person as well. But if you got somebody else, you just got to make sure you don't really have a lot of dead air to cover. And I feel like you've been doing good for your first time, so...
Thank you.
You know.
I appreciate that. It means a lot.
Yeah. So, getting back into it, we were talking about the big three, things like that, like I said a second ago. Now, and we toyed around with some of the other different things and what makes things big three, how to keep them there, and now we're going to get into the current big three, at least that has been presented to us, what we know, and kind of what we agree with out of it. And other things that could potentially be in that area, but just aren't because they aren't Shonen Jump like titles.
I think we should also do like 3 runner-ups to the current, what we know as the current big three. 3 runner-ups to that.
I don't know. I just read and I know things, like Tyrion Lannister. That's about it. I just read and I know things, or like he says, I just drank and I know things. So that's about it. I don't know very much, just about what I read and what I know. But so far, originally, with the little comic thing that we looked at, Minato from My Hero Academia is considered one of the newer big threes. So that is one of the things that we see. Now, is that one that you agree with on being one of the current big threes that we would have?
I completely agree. My Hero Academia has so much potential, and I don't see it being one of those animes that just has like a couple episodes.
Right.
I see it going on for many, many more seasons.
Right.
My Hero Academia set the premise for being one of those Dragon Ball Z type shows.
What the new consideration is.
Right.
Now, do you still think that the title is held on Big Three, because Big Three kind of stands for a lot of cash in for like Shonen Jump, a very good steep amount of manga or so that has come out. Basically everything about it is big. The cash flow income, the amount of books that it brings out, the amount of printings that it brings out, as well as the amount of TV shows, how many people want to watch it. A bunch of stuff gets factored into it. The smallest part of that, like I said earlier, is just the Shonen Jump thing. But do you think that things like that, it is holding up to what the other ones were before it? Or do you think that that it still might not be exactly there yet, because of One Piece and how much it is actually increasing the bar every day or every week that it comes out to show, hey, like, I'm the big boss and there's nobody that's really going to catch up to me.
Right. I still think we need more time to determine that.
Yeah.
I do believe that I do believe that My Hero has that presence in the media,
right,
or with the people. Just based on what the show is about. You know, you're dressing up to be this superhero, you
right,
know. So you have a lot of people trying to become this superhero or trying to be their own My Hero characters. Like,
right,
they're going out and buying things to develop their own type of costumes, or they're buying the keychains, the lanyards, and
right,
all the things that come along with the anime. They're buying the video games, you know. I think the more My Hero gets put out there, the more you'll see that the tables are kind of even out between, I'll say, My Hero and Dragon Ball Z. I don't think
right,
anything is going to touch One Piece anytime soon.
Right. Well, and I mean, you know, from just me going out trying to collect little, like, rinky-dink trinkets or whatever to hang up, or statues or whatever, that one of my biggest gripes is there's not really too much you can even find short of it being Dragon Ball Z, My Hero Academia, or Naruto. You know, it's almost impossible. You know, I would say Demon Slayer is coming in a little bit at having some stuff like that, but mostly if you go to the store right now, 9 times out of 10 you're going to find something for Dragon Ball Z, My Hero Academia, or One Piece, and you're not really going to be able to present anything else.
Right.
You know, it's not kind of like back in the day when we had stuff where it was, okay, well, you might have this for Ronin Warriors and Yu Hakusho action figures and all this other stuff, and every TV show had an action figure for it, you know. Now it's more so what's the really popular ones, which is
the big three.
The big three that we have, the legendary, one of the current, and one of the new. So, I mean, we do have that stuff as well, showing, hey, we're around to stay for a while, obviously. Now, bringing up Demon Slayer, though, would you consider Demon Slayer to be one of the other big number 3s, in your own opinion?
Now I just watched Demon Slayer, so I really love the show.
Right.
I would say the first episode was a little bit
rocky.
Yeah. Rocky. The anime as a whole was amazing.
Right.
I loved it. I do believe that it's supposed to be in the big three. I believe the new generation, the new big three,
right,
it's in there. It just needs a little room for improvement. The writer has to do more. He needs a little more room for improvement.
Right.
But I see it being there. I do believe it.
Right. Well, and you know, I do think, like, because I haven't actually started the series watching it or reading it, even though I've been collecting a lot of the manga for it for a while, just because there's so much hype around it, I can't actually get into it just yet. But from what I've heard from other people, what I see on media and people doing art for it and things like that, you know, it has to have a big presence. Now, the one thing that I kind of hope that we don't see with it is Yura and the Yokai clan was pretty close to touching that presence. It had 25 volumes of manga come out, had like 3 seasons of an anime, things like that. And I remember us talking about it and different things like that. The bad thing about Yura and the Yokai clan kind of is that it kind of fizzled out to an extent. Like, it got really big, people knew about it, and then it fizzled out. And now it's almost like you can bring it up to some people and they're like, I don't know what you're talking about.
Right.
You know, so it just kind of, it happened, it turned into a thing, and it really throws it out there of what we view as the big three, because Yura was a good one for the running. I would say that it almost could have been a big three in between the old big three that we know as Naruto, One Piece, and Bleach compared to the new big three that people consider, just because of how popular it did take off. A lot of people enjoyed it, but it never seemed like it just had that hook to keep people liking it and involved with it, which is the problem. Now for me, you know, the old big three I feel like has one that has been around forever that you and I have watched multiple times. We have friends that have watched this multiple times. And it has a presence, but it doesn't have a presence. And I really enjoy it. And I actually own almost every volume of manga that has come out for it. But it is Case Closed or Detective Conan. You know, it's run forever and is on the heels of One Piece because it's getting close to like its 80th book coming out. Now, out of that stuff, that's another determination I feel like we have to have is how popular are things and do they have to be and have such a big following that makes them a big three? Because Case Closed Detective Conan has never actually gotten to that area. Even though it will be one of the longest running ones. It may even go past past One Piece in volumes coming out. We don't exactly know that because it's been actually written even before Naruto was thought about.
I think the big three really determines what your target audience is.
Right.
I believe animes like that, like Case Closed and those detective type animes, and a lot of those didn't necessarily grab the attention of the wider range of audience.
Right.
And a lot of people, even people who not even into anime, will see or hear about the big three.
Right.
They'll know and see about, you know, the big three through their everyday life. You know, like I could go up to somebody and say, hey, Goku this and Goku that. And they'll be like, oh, I don't want to hear about Dragon Ball Z.
Right. So
because they know that Goku is a part of the big three.
That's true.
You know?
Yeah, of the old big three. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so let's throw this other one around there. And I know that there's a couple other things that we want to cover in this circle of things. But I want to ask you this before I give you this follow-up question pertaining to this. So the newer big three, the other one that we kind of saw was Black Clover.
Right.
Would you agree with Black Clover being in the new big three?
Yes.
Okay.
I would agree.
Black Clover is one that I actually started reading like early on. And then it was like we got up to book 12, and then everybody started going, I fucking love Black Clover. And I was like, where are all these people coming from? Like, get out of here. I'm watching this, you know. Hey, man, what you doing? I'm watching Black Clover. Man, that ain't nothing. And it went from that to being like, hey, man, what you doing? Watching Black Clover. Let me ask everybody in the dorm to come watch it with you, okay? And it was so, like, it was just weird, you know, how it went from, like, night and day to how people wanted to see that one, to now being as popular as it is, to be part of the newer big three.
Right.
Okay, so here's my circle back question. Out of all the 9 that we have discussed as being part of this big three circuit, excluding what we know, like with Case Closed and some of the other stuff, of what actually gets our attention, is the big three also have always involved shonen battle manga or anime. Which is why with Case Closed that it probably got excluded, is it's not really, it's a brainy book. You know, you want to follow Detective Conan, you want to follow in his journey, you want to figure out the case and everything like that, but it's not really a battle thing. Even though they do have fighting in it, it's not really a battle, you know. While with the 9 that we presented, you know, Rurouni Kenshin, Yu Yu Hakusho, Dragon Ball Z, Naruto, One Piece, Bleach, and then Black Clover, Demon Slayer, and My Hero Academia are all considered battle shonen from Shonen Jump.
Right.
And so I think that's another key trait out of the big three is it has to be and be incorporated into a battle shonen. Which, leading up to what we talked about before the show, honorable mentions that you wanted to throw in there, which we could throw those in now. You said Dr. Stone.
I do believe Dr. Stone could be runner-up.
And I feel
as part
like
of the big three.
I feel like the reason why Dr. Stone isn't is it is that scientific-based one.
Yes.
That it's kind of closer to Detective Conan than it is to the other ones. Even though there is fighting in it, it's more of a science book.
It's more of a scientific field. Every algorithm in Dr. Stone is a real scientific algorithm.
Right.
And you really have to be in tune with science to really just dig it.
Right.
You know? And
right.
I think...
And I mean, Dr. Stone's one of the other ones that I collect that I enjoy as well, so...
Right. So, I mean, that's where a lot of people, their target audience gets lost. Yeah. So, that's the only reason why I wouldn't consider that one being in the big three.
Yeah.
But I would say that would be runner-up for the big three.
And I feel like that one focuses on survival more than the battle aspect of it. Mm-hmm. So I think that's probably another thing that rolls it out, even though I kind of wish that they would open up the big three to be more than battle manga. Mm-hmm. Maybe there should be like a battle big three and a smart big three or something, you know. Okay. So what are some of the other runner-ups that you think should be involved in it?
Another runner-up would be, I don't know the Japanese term for it, but I think the English translation of this anime is called My Life is a Slime Slurp.
You mean reincarnated as a slime?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Slurp. It's like, what? That totally threw me off. So that's one of my favorites. That's one of my big three isekai manga that I really enjoy. Beside Re-Monster and Soma Spider So What. So I couldn't consider that in there because for whatever reason, none of those are fantasy based either, which is what I hate. But, you know, that's a good one though. That's a good one.
That was a really good anime. They did get renewed for a second season. I haven't watched it yet.
Oh, I mean, and that one should have a secondary spin-off season that comes out called Reincarnated as a Slime Monster Tempest, I think is what it's called. So we'll have a couple spin-offs actually come out of that one that will hopefully get animes. Mm-hmm. So what's your other one? Or other ones?
Another one I would consider, let me see. The three.
Slurp. That totally caught me off. Slurp.
That's what he's saying in the anime.
I was like,
Another one I would probably consider is as a good runner up for the big three would be I maxed out my defense.
Oh. I maxed out my defense and now I'm the world's strongest. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. So that one will probably.
But before I maxed out my defense so I wouldn't be killed or something like that.
So that one's probably gonna get rolled out just because that's like a Yen Press 7 Seas title. So it's not shonen, so they probably won't ever be in the big three.
Right. But these are ones that I've seen that have blown my mind, and I would be like, oh,
well,
yes,
you know, in that, like we mentioned Fairy Tail earlier, you know, Eden Zero is a newer one that's based off of that, or even like Rave Master, that were never given spots in a big three set because they are not Shonen Jump or manga.
Right.
So it's kind of funny that we have the Shonen battle manga, but even more so, it's the Shonen Jump battle manga, which, you know, it makes sense why we have these things that are called the big three when almost every other thing gets excluded, you know, unless it's a fight sequence.
Right.
And I think it's really funny because if we look back, we probably would see that like Akira Toriyama taught Kubo and some of the other people with Naruto and everything else to do part of the art. before they actually went down from there. Well, maybe one of them taught one of these guys how to draw, and it go from there. So that's kind of another thing, is we probably have like a master apprentice thing going through what the big three actually are. In some extent. I mean, that might not be really a big thing. That might be some kind of disillusion that I have, but it seems like all of them are somewhat connected as assistant master at some point.
So, Jen, where would you place Fairy Tail and Death Note?
Death Note obviously wouldn't be in it because it's not a battle shonen. But, like, what do you mean where I would place it at?
Yes, like, would you think that they would be?
Oh, I would place it over.
Three?
I would place it over with Detective Stone and or Detective Conan or Case Closed, I guess, English, and Dr. Stone. You know, because it is one of those, you do have to focus on this stuff. You have to know this stuff, and it is more of that science-y adventure type. Not, hey, let me beat this guy up real quick. Hold on, 5 minutes, yo. 5 minutes. You know, we'll get there. We'll be back. You know, and then Platinum Man I would probably throw in with that as well. Or even Bakuman, because it had a pretty big resurgence of stuff. And then what was the other one you said? Fairy Tail?
Fairy Tail.
So Fairy Tail, I would say, should be a part of the big three if it was published by Shōnen Jump. It was published by Kodansha, so we don't actually have that. But when I had one of my old bookshelves at my other house, you know, I had a bunch more of other things that were put out there, where I had a giant bookshelf of everything that had basically like 50 volumes or more, which was Fairy Tail, Naruto, One Piece, Bleach, and a couple other ones that I had on there that were just super huge. That went with it. And I think that's probably one of my only reigning glories of publishing some of my pictures like that, was because Shōnen Jump actually did ask if they could use that picture for advertisement for something, which was good. They put it on their page.
Wow.
Now, the only bad thing about it, because I had Funko Pops on it too, the only bad thing on it was Fairy Tail, because that's obviously not one of theirs. But everything on the shelf was basically that, because you also had Case Closed on there that had a bunch of stuff as well. Right. So it was pretty cool. It was just that. Now I would probably throw like Seven Deadly Sins on there now too, because of how many they have. But, you know, again, Shōnen Jump Big Three is kind of what everything is, and we can't really get out of that, which is what I hate. But, you know, we do have that stuff. And it's kind of weird thinking about what we have now and what we will see in the future for another big three to come. You know, the big three started when we were younger, basically, in high school, middle school, stuff like that. And as we grew up, we grew with it, you know.
And it seems like the big three is not only developing its new big three, but it's kind of trying to recycle its big three with the development of Dragon Ball Super,
right,
and then Boruto, right, and now we have a new Bleach is confirmed is coming out. So
right,
it's kind of like the big three is kind of like trying to resurface itself again.
Yeah, have a new face on it
for the newer generation, as well as the newer big three for the next generation.
Right. Now, here's the other thing. Do you think that any of that stuff actually has stuff that happens like that, or are they the cliff notes underneath what they were before? So, like with Dragon Ball Super, people laugh and go, "Ha! Well, that and GT, even though people want to say it's not relevant, actually all fit under Dragon Ball Z, under Dragon Ball and stuff like that." Just like Boruto, even though people go, "I don't like reading that, it's stupid, it's not the same thing," fits underneath Naruto. So we have ones that spring off of them that you have to push back and go, okay, well, These ones were actually these ones at one time and get pushed back. So we have to have, even though they have resurgences, they will never hold like the mantle of Big Three again because something else with them already held the mantle of Big Three.
Right.
You think that that's really a thing? Maybe?
I think that you're right. They can't really hold the mantle more than once.
Right.
But at the same time, there's going to create a presence that there's this new, you know, thing that you haven't seen before. So it's like it's almost as if it was a new show.
Right. Because I feel like Super 8, which a lot of people talked about when it first started coming out, it was another ninja type thing that was getting viewed off of Naruto. I think it was getting power, and it was being viewed more closer to Naruto than Boruto was. I think with that one, it was actually chugging along pretty well and actually got shot in the foot because it didn't have such a good storyline involved with it. And,
right.
And it didn't have this backing that it had with, like, Boruto does with Naruto. Because there is going to be probably so much to actually take Boruto off the table that it's just going to have to take, like, repeated assaults on it to get it thrown out of it. And it's still going to be relevant because it's still going to be a part of Naruto. So, you know, I think that there's other ones that try to imitate that stuff that we enjoyed, that we liked, and we're not able to really go back and reclaim that stuff at all. So, now, and another weird thing is, just bringing this up since we brought up Sailor Moon and, like, even Cardcaptor Sakura and some other stuff, is that we don't have battle shoujo manga, you know. We do have, like, Sailor Moon, which is actually considered to be a shonen manga. It's considered to be made for boys, even though it's got girls and it's made for boys. But we don't have anything like that. We don't have a big three shoujo, whatever. You know, shoujo slice of life, shoujo, whatever it would be called to make a big three. No other ones except for shonen actually have that. And even though we did mention Naruto, not Naruto, Dragon Ball Z, Rurouni Kenshin, and Yu Yu Hakusho, I mean, there's other ones out there. Shaman King could be considered one, things like that. But with those and as they came out, they're actually pushed back at the forefront to us not even actually having an original big three back there, because the only big three that we had at the time were Naruto, One Piece, and Bleach. But now, because of, I think, a new big three, people talking about that, then we do have to back up, and we do have this quote-unquote legendary big three of what presented and had its roots into Naruto, One Piece, and Bleach to actually influence them, which is also what influenced us from the start. I mean, you could probably even argue in some aspects that Yu-Gi-Oh could be in it. You know, Shaman King could be in it. I mean, a lot of stuff could have been in it at different times, but we don't see it as that.
You can also say that all the big three were spawned off the back of Dragon Ball Z.
Right.
You know.
Right.
Because that was one of the very first one. And with Dragon Ball Super kind of coming in and taking over the mantle and replacing GT, a lot of people are more accepting of Dragon Ball Super now.
Right. Yeah. Right. And I would agree to that. You know, I really feel like, as well, if we had some of those older ones that actually continued the story for a little while longer, you know, Naruto, if we had books come out like right in the middle. Remember this time when Naruto was gone for X number of years or whatever, or something like that, and actually have his story come through it, or hey, he took a trip here or whatever, that we could actually kind of still revive the series, so to speak, by all of those little times where we had some character or somebody missing, we could stick this stuff into it.
Right.
You know, Fairy Tail kind of did that, which is what I really loved about them, is you have a complete and utter timeline, because whenever there was a time they were gone, there was something else going on. and then you come back. And Fairy Tail is so good about it that they've had like 7 or 8 spin-off series that actually are extra little sets that are stuck in between everything that would have happened. What did some of these characters do while these guys were shoved into a different alternate time reality? What did these characters do then? What did this journey that we knew about where they disappeared for a little while and came back, what is that they are doing? And it fills it in for us. And that's one of the things that I really like about Fairy Tail is it's an entire complete set of everything. If you get any books for Fairy Tail, it really goes with the main series and you can plug them in wherever it is. Now, some of them are a little far stretching, but most of the other ones that the person has come out with, you can actually stick into different spots of it. Other ones that other people have made, it is a little rough around the edges, but it could be a thing stuck here and there in Fairy Tail. So, and I think that that's what some of these other ones could do. I feel like we could back up to where everybody loved Bleach, early on, maybe have some more hollow fights in the real world, some other things like that. More battles in Hikamundo and other things that kind of go with that.
I think with the downfall of Bleach is the time of the rest periods where they wasn't fighting. They tried to come back to a normal school life, sense of a feeling of more peaceful life, and
right.
And it kind of lasted for a while, but then they had to go back into battle, and then they threw this. Okay, what's the next big thing?
Right.
Let's send in the next enemy.
Which that's another thing. That's where it did have the problem is it threw them into it. But what if we found out, like, even when they went home to rest, we might have a part where they jump like a couple days and then a couple more days and things like that. What if we took part of those days and actually said, well, there wasn't actually time for rest. They were actually going around killing hollows. They were going around killing some of these other characters and some of these other things, hunting down maybe renegade Shinigami patrol people, different stuff like that could be incorporated into it.
But see, it all has to do with the writer, from the writer's standpoint. So the fact of the matter is those times of rest were pretty boring. I'll just say it like that. As if you would compare those time of rest compared to the Naruto times of rest,
right?
The Naruto times of rest had purpose,
right?
They had they were either doing shooting exams, they were building their cells by training,
right?
They were looking for somebody. They had a purpose. They were on a mission.
Yeah,
they
still had missions to go on,
right? And those missions connected to the story. And it had a purpose.
Right.
So
if they could have made it where, like the original mission that Rukia got sent on to come in where Ichigo first got his powers, if we had something where they came back to the real world to go from there, then you think it would be better.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. And I mean, that probably would have done something. It probably would have made it just as good as Naruto filling in some of those other things. But like you said, a writer kind of has to have the foresight of what they're going to do to really do that, and
that's when they get that writer's block, so they hire somebody else to come in and make a filler.
Right.
And then that's where it just goes.
Right. And they get slowed down and somebody else has to do that, which, I mean, we do see fillers more so with the animes. And it's due to because somebody slowed down, basically, or the movies, being big, just different stuff like that. So I really do think that with part of that, we do have issues when it comes to things like that, especially when people don't know how to get to the point of ending their stuff. Because I think Naruto was ended fabulously, and Bleach was ended horrendously.
I think the number one anime for best ending where it needed to end was Death Note.
Even though the manga was different than the ending of the anime?
Yes.
Yeah.
Death Note had perfect ending. And I'm actually glad they never went back and tried to do it again.
Goodness gracious. Well, like I said, Platinum Inn is really good. I really like that based off the Death Note stuff. And I do wish that we had another big 3 for things. That way, other stuff could get the proper representation that I feel like it needs to fit into categories like that. I mean, because Death Note is very, I would say critically acclaimed by a lot of people, you know. It's still having manga made for it, reprinted, all this other stuff from stuff like that. I mean, you can't go to the store and see like very much Naruto anymore, but for sure you see fucking Death Note on all the shelves repeatedly. Right. So
you might even see a book in the notebook section.
Right. Right.
It says Death Note.
Right. Things like that, you know. So of course, you know, I have some stuff that's like that because I have my little L in a chair, but you know, it's all fun and games and things like that. So anyway, thanks for coming on and doing this podcast with me, because, you know, Mike wasn't able to do it. You know, for it being your first one, you handled the reins pretty well. You know,
That's good.
Just don't call me in a week and be like, hey, I started my own podcast, okay? you gave me the bug. Will you put me out? Because then I'm going to have you on for an interview episode for your podcast. And we're like, good God, what did I get myself into?
No, I won't do you like that, Jen.
So, but yeah, I mean, had a great time. You know, obviously I see you all the time because you're one of my brothers. And really us focusing on the big 3, past, present, future, and just kind of going from there. So, yeah. So anyway, pimp out your show one more time, or where people can find you.
Okay, you can reach me at Naruto 132 or Goku 1337 on YouTube. That's pretty much it. It's been a pleasure. Otakuology.
Is it the best podcast ever?
It is.
Oh my God. But anyway, guys, thanks for listening. Hopefully we'll have Mike back soon. There are some episodes that will be coming out that and I don't know when they will be coming out, but it is all stuff that Mike just couldn't be there. So him and I both talked about preemptively making some of them just in case. So they might trickle out throughout the year, and it be very far away from when they were originally recorded. But anyway, guys, as always, thanks for listening. I'm Jingraves, and not here right now is Otaku Mike, but as he would say, as always, Jin, what do we like to say on the show? Well, Mike, we like to say, see you guys next Tuesday. Again, thanks for listening, and check out some of our other shows. Bye.